The right to medical assistance in death, or MAID, has been a value of Humanist Canada's members for some time. We have spoken out and urged the government to ensure this option is available to all who wish to have a dignified death. In June 2023, Stratford resident Diane Sims wrote an article in the Canadian Maclean's magazine detailing her decision in preparation to pursue a medically assisted death. In August 2023, Humanist Canada's Martin Frith met with Diane at her home in Stratford. This is a recording of that conversation. We are grateful to Diane for allowing us the opportunity to understand her journey and gain a better understanding of the value of MAID for those who pursue it.
Okay, we're rolling.
I'm Diane Sims. We are in my gazebo in the backyard of my Stratford, Ontario cottage. And I'm here with Martin Frith and delighted to be so.
So why don't we just jump in? When I read your story, I was certainly impacted by this journey that you've been on since 14.
Yes.
Yes. So do you want to just recap this journey that you've been on where, from age 14 when you first had a diagnosis, you've been living with big decisions all your life.
Well, when I was 14, I lost the eyesight in my left eye, and a cousin had recently died of eye cancer. So I was flown air ambulance to Toronto General, where they thought I had eye cancer, but I didn't. I had inflammation along the optic nerve, so they treated me, but they had no idea why. And then when I was 17, I woke up one morning unable to move my legs, and I screamed, "Mom!" And they called the ambulance, and I spent 10 days in the Sault Ste. Marie Hospital, and they did a variety of tests, including very painful prodding tests. I ended up throwing a Kleenex box at the doctor. Get him to stop. And they were afraid I had a spinal tumor. So I was flown air ambulance to Sunnybrook Hospital, where I had another week of tests, but there they did a lumbar puncture, a spinal tap.
Right.
Which reveals a host of illnesses, and it showed that I had elevated gamma globulin, which indicated MS. And one night I was taken into a very dingy exam room, and I was sitting on paper, crinkly paper, and two doctors were in the room. It was a June night. The baby leaves were on the trees, and this one doctor said to me, you have MS, you will be in a wheelchair shortly, you will be bedridden at 27 and dead by 35.
Oh my.
And I was looking out the window, and I was a good Baptist girl, and I said to them, "Fuck you." Which was the first time I said it in my life, not the last.
I can understand that, yes.
And on the 10th anniversary, when I should have been bedridden, I went dancing on an all-night pub crawl with colleagues, reporters and editors from the London Free Press. And although not dead at 35, I was in the hospital. But I got out, and I was still walking, although with the cane. And then at age 38, 1996 was my annus horribilis year, as the Queen would have said. My sister died of a cancer that spread to her ovaries in January. She also had MS. Our mom died in May, and the Friday of Thanksgiving weekend, I was operated on Friday night for a 10-pound ovarian tumor. 10-pound ovarian tumor. And it turned out to be cancerous. And I was given a year to live. Well, it's well past that time now. But since then, I had recurrence in my breasts. So I had to have a bilateral mastectomy. I've had bowel reconstructions. I've had many E. coli infections that have sent me into a coma, and twice doctors have come out of the emergency room and said to my husband Dennis, we have to become much more invasive, or else she'll die. And he said, I'm not ready for her to die yet. And I lived. And then in April of 21, I had a massive bowel obstruction. I'm sorry, not an obstruction, a massive a mass in my colon. And it turns out I'd been a vegetarian, and I thought I was eating everything healthy and proper. And it turns out that my colon could no longer digest fiber. So it had built up a mass like cement. And the reason the colon can't digest fiber is it can't oscillate properly. I've had 6 abdominal surgeries because of the cancer and the bowel obstructions, and part of the colon is adhered to the cavity wall and the other side is affected by the MS. So I was given 3 months to live.
And you defied them again.
I defied them again. And that September, Dennis and I made our semi-annual trip to the MS clinic at University Hospital in London. And we were told to tuck in tightly in the room because it was going to be crowded. And in came my neurologist, trailing 2 other doctors and a nurse. And turns out they were the palliative team. And I was told I was end-stage MS, so I was palliative. And MS is scored from 0 to 9, 9 being death, and I'm at 8.5. It goes up in increments of 0.5, so there's no room. I'm 8.5 or I'm 9.
Right, and 9 would be dead, and you don't look like you're ready for death.
No, I'm not ready for death because I can still communicate. I can still paint a bit. I can still keyboard because I am a professional writer. But when I can't communicate, I have what's called dysarthria, and my speech is getting worse. When I can't communicate, when I do not have voice or any means to give voice to others, then and I also have a suprapubic catheter. The MS has almost collapsed my left lung. It's narrowed my esophagus, so I vomit a lot. And I have a lot of pain. So when I can't communicate and when the pain is at the point I don't want to carry on with it, then I have made all the provisions for MAID. And I have thought about this for many years.
Right. Now, you'd mentioned, by the way, do you need a sip or you're
No.
comfortable? Okay. Um, you you mentioned that you've been thinking about MAID for many years, and it sounded like in your in the Maclean's article you had written about a friend who had made death, and that seemed to be pivotal for you in opening up the possibility. Can you say how you've arrived at a comfort or a place of being open to considering MAID?
I had when when Jim died, I was very sick. Soon after, I became very sick, and his widow came to talk to me and told me everything about me, and told me it wasn't frightening at all, and told me the procedure. And since then, I've had another friend just last April who also had MS die from me. And the most important thing, and I've been doing it obviously all my life, is spiritual homework. And you have to be at a place of peace with what you believe. And I believe that the mystical, magical, mysterious divine would not want me suffering. And after what we saw with the pandemic in the nursing homes, it just makes me shudder. I have goosebumps right now thinking about it, because if Dennis can't take care of me, that would be my next place, waiting for God, so to speak. The old British show. And
so going into long-term care is, if I'm understanding it, is something you wouldn't want to do.
I would certainly not want to do.
Right. Does you have this wonderful oasis here in Stratford that you call home, and it's beautiful and it's whimsical and it's full of color, and you still have a wonderful. Would you describe your life right now as still having a quality of life for you?
Yes, I still do have a quality of life. I'm still painting. In September, I'll start another writing contract that will take me through till February if my hands can do it. And they know that's the proviso, if my hands can do it, especially after reading the Maclean's article.
Yes.
And I have a loving husband. I have good friends. And right now, it is theater season in Stratford, and we're big theater buffs here, and it's also musical season.
Yes.
So we have tickets lined up right through till December.
Okay. You're not
So-
planning on going anywhere anytime soon.
No, but I have everything in place. I first thing, I got my will in order, updated, and that's really important to do. Then I knew I wanted to be cremated, but I had to have a home to go to, and so I called the cemetery here,
Yes.
and they have semicircular blocks with columns and rows and boxes, and the proper name for them is a niche. So we were told to go and look at the available niches before we went to the office, and Dennis and I did, and I wanted the top row, but Dennis said, "Don't you remember I'm afraid of heights?" So we're only part way up the column.
Right. The nature of relationships, you came up with a compromise.
Yes.
Yes.
So on the way home, I said to Dennis, or in the office, I think I said, "We've bought our last home."
Mm-hmm.
And on the way home, I said to him, "I think we can officially say we're part of the Hole in the Wall gang."
Yes. Or will be. Yes.
Yes. And just this week, I paid off my cremation. So it's important to me to have those things in order. And it's very important that you have a letter of instruction for your executors,
Mm-hmm.
and a list of where you want your personal items to go.
Can you, when you say it's really important to have those things in order, um, how is, this preparation for, end of life? It just seems you're planning for it. You're not there yet, but this planning, how does that fit with your personality and how you've lived your life? It sounds.
Well, it's sort of sounds a bit like business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just part of doing business, preparing things to make it as easy as possible for my executors. And I've run my own business. I've had an incredibly rich career, and part of it was running my own business.
Mm-hmm.
So, and being a freelancer for years, paperwork is, I'm used to paperwork.
Yes. Yes, I can imagine. So, I mean, you talk about this so matter-of-factly. Um, you know,
It's because I'm at peace with it.
okay. And have there been challenges or hard times thinking about, here you are at, at this age that you are, and it still seems far too young to die. How do you find yourself at peace with that? How have you made peace with this?
Because I've been told I would die so many times. Hello, Happy. I have outlived so many drop-dead deadlines. And as I said, I've had a rich life, but it continues to be rich. And the hardest part has been dealing with family members who are very religious and believe I am committing a sin and that I should wait until God takes me.
So,
and that I have said, so you want to see me suffer? Well, if that's what God wants you to do, then yes. So that has been a real struggle.
right. So it's, if I understand, it's still an ongoing struggle, is it, with family members who have?
Well, it's like water off a duck's back to me now. It was a struggle talking to them and listening to that. But the divine and I are at peace with it. So, why should I be concerned about their beliefs?
Mm-hmm.
And the amount of support, the overwhelming support I've had from the Maclean's article shows me how many people are on side with MAID. And as you said, I followed MAID a long time, from Sue Rodriguez right through to the legalization, first in Quebec and then finally in Canada. And it is the humane, compassionate, it is a humane, compassionate way to die. And it's a compassionate way to let someone you love go.
I'm also thinking that it's central to MAID is this idea about being able to determine your own manner of death and timing. And you're somebody who's been fiercely independent,
Yes.
self-directed, and I can't imagine you wanting. And MAID is so consistent with those kinds of values.
Absolutely. the MAID doctor said, you're fully in the driver's seat. He'll go along with anything. I plan to have people here for bubbly. My friend's going to play his viola, and he plays with the KW Symphony Orchestra. So, first time he found out he was going to be playing was when he read it in Maclean's, but he assumed he'd be playing something.
So you're going to be surrounded by the things that are important to you, the people who are important to you.
Yes, I'm going to have people here, and I don't have very many family, but I will be having one family person with me. Mm-hmm. And my own GP will be here as a friend.
Nice.
And my long-time palliative nurse will be the nurse accompanying the MAID doctor. And what's important to know about MAID, or you may want to know this, it only takes 3 minutes to die. They give you a heavy tranquilizer, and then they give you the drug that hospitals use to put you to sleep for surgery, only it's a much higher dose. And it's also, if this was important to me, your bowels don't let go. So
another element of dignity.
It's another element of dignity, yes. So this is such a dignified way to go.
Yeah, and as you talk about it, once again, you talk about it with an equanimity that's quite striking.
Well, thank you.
Now, if we could come back for a moment, because you had mentioned that, Dennis had a difficult time initially coming to terms with. Can you share with me a little bit about what that journey was like and where he's at now with your decision?
For years, and I mean, we've been together 13 years, so for 12 of those years, he felt MAID was since MAID became legal, he felt MAID was a cop-out, and it wasn't fair. It was selfish, and it wasn't fair to those left behind. And when I first wanted to talk to him about it, we came out onto the terrace, and I got the expected result, and he said, "Why can't you keep on living? You fought so hard." But I said to him, "You don't understand the pain, the discomfort, and frankly, there are times when I'm lying in shit. and it's squishing up your back. How undignified is that? And for months there was steady tension in the air, and then there'd be a few breaks where we'd forget this was happening. We'd forget that I was told I only had so long. And we'd laugh and be watching a movie, and we made it up to Manitoulin one last time last summer. And last summer I had a bucket list of local things I wanted to do, and I wanted to go eat perch at Port Dover and then go out and sit at the end of the pier and just watch ships for an hour, because I grew up on ships. My dad was a captain. And that's part of my rich life. And we went to Port Stanley, and then I wanted to go to the Blythe Festival. And driving home from a play at Blythe, all of a sudden, Dennis said, "I understand. I finally get it." And I was stunned. I couldn't speak for a moment, which is uncommon to me.
Yes.
So I asked him to repeat it, and he still pretends sometimes it's not going to happen, but in fact I know yesterday he explained it to his mom, and he explained to her exactly when I'm going to do it, and that he understands. And it's going to be hard on him. It's going to be hard on people who love me. But those same people support my decision.
Well, I often think that, when we are in loving relationships, is that, there's none of us, want to see that experience end.
No.
Yeah, so I can appreciate it being, both hard in that regard, but however you die would be hard as well, and
Yes.
and a natural MS death would be even harder to witness.
Oh, of course it would. And shipping me to a long-term care facility would be gruesome and very hard on him. So this is more humane for Dennis as well.
So, what was the change of heart? What shifted for him that helped this make sense to him? Do you know?
I think because I'd been having so many accidents, bowel accidents, and he could see how much more tired I was getting, and that I couldn't stay in my chair all day and all evening anymore. I had to get to bed at a certain time to get my legs stretched out, and that even in bed there's pain. And now, and also the vomiting, which was relatively new at that point. I think all that was a trigger for him to accept that I was making the right decision.
Right, so he can appreciate more of what quality of life means to you.
Yes. But he says, we've got all these tickets and you're not going anywhere before the Christmas, our annual Christmas concert, so...
Right, so there's these, they may be shorter milestones, but these milestones that you're looking forward to that gets you through.
Yes.
And provides things to look forward to for yourself as a couple.
Yes, and he works 2 jobs, so I'm alone quite a bit, but I'm never bored because I never thought I would buy a Kobo reader, that I would always want to be able to hold the book. Well, I can't anymore, and the Kobo allows me the larger text because I've lost more eyesight. I'm legally blind in my left eye, and I'm losing, I have less than half in my right eye. So Kobo allows me to increase the text. And the font, not the text, I'm sorry, the font size.
Yes.
Font size. And so I'm never bored. If I'm up in my chair, I can paint. If I'm in my lift chair, I can work on the lists and lists that I have to make. Or I can read. Or I play bridge on my computer.
Do you play bridge on your computer? And are you part of a
bridge
group?
Yes, I am. So I still play bridge with 3 other women, just once a month right now. But I'd love to go to twice a month, but they're so busy with other bridge groups that right now we're once a month.
So there's lots of things that are important to you right now that keep you moving forward. And you had talked earlier, there's happy.
Yes.
And you had talked earlier and that there are still causes that are important to you. So the disability, and could you share just a little bit tomorrow you're having coffee with the mayor.
Tomorrow I'm having coffee with the mayor because I am like a dog with a bone when it comes to the Stratford police station. I could not get in when I needed to, and it was pouring rain, and I thought there was an elevator at the back. Well, it turns out the elevator's only for the judicial, the court part of the building. It's not for the police. So there is no intercom. There's no way to get the police. And I have thought about tourists in town. I've thought about residents who have lost their phone, have been robbed, attacked, and where do you go where you want to feel safe? You go to the police.
And it's not accessible.
It's not accessible. So this is a fight I've been fighting for over a year now, and I'm having coffee with the mayor tomorrow, and I think there's money in the budget that was passed this week to make it accessible. I think, but I will find out tomorrow. And if so, I'm going to insist on cutting the ribbon.
Another thing to look forward to. And
yes.
Yes, and so you should.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is a human rights issue about having accessibility for.
Absolutely. And it's a decrepit old building, and the Ontario Solicitor General has shown absolutely no interest in this. And I've done a survey. I have phoned police stations across Ontario on my own interest. And we're the only one that's inaccessible. And for a town that bills itself as a cosmopolitan gem of theater, to have an inaccessible police station is simply appalling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if someone with a cane tried to go up the decrepit old concrete stairs, they could trip so easily. And as I said, there's no intercom, no bell to ring, like at the lower level, nothing.
So you want to change that?
I definitely want to change that. And after that, there might be something else.
And yes, another writing contract.
Yes.
So, yeah. I mean, I just marvel at how you have such a full and seemingly rich life. You smile about the things that are important to you. You're committed to advocacy and making for change for others, and which gives you lots of reasons for continuing on.
Yes, and I've part of the rich life was advocating throughout my life for MS, and accessibility has been that can go. Accessibility has been an issue all my life. Oh, my hair's just getting in my way. One time, Bob Ray appointed me to the board of the Eastern Ontario Health Unit, and I was appointed to the Finance Committee. And one Thursday, the committee decided, I remember I was new, they decided that 20 nurses needed to be laid off, and this was 6 weeks before Christmas. And at the next full board meeting, they also decided on having their Christmas party at a resort in Quebec for a weekend, and it would be for spouses and senior staff. Well, I went ballistic, and I ended up, Ruth Greer was Minister of Health at that point, and I had been a speechwriter for her when she was Minister of Environment. And finally, all the media, the Sun called me the indefatigable Ms. Sims. Finally got her attention, and she said that from this point on, no Christmas parties, retirement parties, parties of any sort would be funded from the General Revenue Fund. It would have to be potluck. Well, I was the black sheep the rest of the time I was on that committee.
I bet. But at least you could sleep at night.
I could sleep at night knowing that what I did was juxtaposition the cost of the Christmas party with the number of PSW hours that would be laid off.
And how that would make a huge difference to Ontarians.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's just gives you an idea of what I'm like.
Yes, and what this future is for you. Tell me, just as we wind things down, one of the things that you've shared with me, and I think that for people who don't understand, the kinds of challenges that you've lived with and others with MS, and is what a day for you is like, because we see you sitting here looking wonderful, but I know that this is only part of the story, that you have a care regime that is all part of a daily routine for you. Can you share with us a little bit about what that's like, that puts another perspective on
Yes.
on this challenge.
I have a support worker who comes in from 8:30 to 11:30, and it basically takes that long to get me ready for the day. At 8:30, she puts a sling around me, and I hook myself up to a ceiling lift and run the controls to the end of the bed where there's a commode, and I descend, and thanks to all the medicinal bowel medication I have to take, there's much fanfare. And so then I lift up and I pretend I'm elsewhere while Alice wipes me. We run the control back to the bed where she then depends on me and support socks on my legs, and then I hook up again and head to my wheelchair, and then we do about an hour of exercise on 45 minutes to an hour with a cycler, and my doctors can't believe that I'm still doing this, but I put 10-pound weights around my upper arms, or Alice puts the weights on, and then I have just a 1 and 2 pound weight around my hands, and I cycle, and we play song quiz on Alexa.
To take your mind off the grueling exercise.
Yes, yes. And we've reached 613,000 points.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Is this an Alexa competition, or is it?
It's an Alexa game where you try to get to certain levels, and I'm sure the top level is 1 million.
So you know your music.
Well, I'm learning it, but then I'll hear something that was in her cycle 2 months ago, and okay, who does that? Money, who was it? Oh yes, Pink Floyd.
Right.
So then we exercise, and it puts pressure on my abdomen. And so then we go back to the bed where she strips me, and I go through the same routine on the commode a second time. And we always have what we call our shitty conversation in the morning because I have to assess it because my doctors want to know.
They want a description of your bowel movement.
Yes.
Right. Yes.
Yes, it's important. There are degrees, quite degrees of color and consistency. So, anyway, after that, it's back to the bed, and Alice has to dress me. And then back to the wheelchair, and we empty my commode bag in the bathroom, and then I'm free to. We've in the bedroom we also wash, but once the commode or bag is emptied, then I'm free to brush my teeth and do my makeup, and I'm free for the day then.
Right.
And that's about 11:15. And so that's how my day starts. And she's back at either 6 or 7 to put me into bed now.
So, so that's a full day, and it sounds exhausting going through. Does the evening ritual, does it take as long?
No, it doesn't. It's a matter simply of getting me into bed and undressing me. There's no commode ritual at night.
Mm-hmm.
And then propping me up properly so I can drink. I have a little table with an arm that swings over so I can have drinks beside me, and I can work on my computer if I have to, or read, or watch a movie on Netflix. Waiting for my husband to come home at either 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock.
Depending, okay.
Yes.
And so it's sounds like a very structured day. And
it is a very structured day. So my afternoon is when I'm free to do what I want. And with my new black and yellow wheelchair, which I've nicknamed Bumblebee.
it's very spiffy, by the way.
It is very spiffy, isn't she?
Yes.
And she can go 6.2 miles an hour. So she gets me downtown in 11 minutes. So I can get downtown to have lunch with friends, do all my banking. I have my little ritual of the drugstore, the post office, the arts and crafts store, the photography shop. So I have my independence that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, and thank goodness that you have this wheelchair that helps facilitate all of that. When did you get this one?
I got this one in March, And she is what $30,000 will buy you. Thank goodness the Ontario ADP program, the Assistive Devices program, pays 75%. And then it's up to you to find money
for the remainder.
for the remainder.
Yes. That's the price of a car.
That's the price of a very nice car.
Yes. So.
Well, it is my legs and my car.
Yep.
Yes, and I can get to 3 of the 4 theaters on my own in town. So I have that independence.
Which is, yeah.
Invaluable.
Invaluable. Totally.
Yes.
And you have more shows to see this season.
Yes, I do. And then I have a lot of music coming up too.
As well.
Yeah. Yes.
Now, tell me, I'm, just as, when you think about this journey that you've been on, and what is it that you would want others to know if you were to, have a legacy message about having the accessibility to MAID, which is something that is going to allow you to have a dignified death for you and at a time that's going to be right for you. What is the message that you would like to leave for people like me, for people who may watch this video or podcast?
You have to be at peace with yourself. You have to have done your spiritual homework. As much as possible, try to be on good terms with your partner, your spouse, but it's your decision and it's your right, and you know why you're doing it. No one else does. No one else has walked in your shoes. And do not let others get you down. You are stronger. You are better than that. And to make this decision, you are strong. And remember that you are a strong person.
Mm-hmm. It's been how many years since you've been in a chair, in a wheelchair?
About 12 years.
Right, full time.
Full time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I can appreciate missing walking, missing the freedom of movement.
Yes, maybe 13 years. Yes, 13 I would say.
Okay. Well, Diane, I have to say you're an incredible inspiration. I think there are, so many people who, may have given up years ago with the challenges that you've been through dealing with, some precursors
Yes.
to MS from age 14 without knowing it, and here you are, still full of life and zest, and not jaded by this whole experience. You're an inspiration.
Thank you very much, Martin. Thank you.
And thanks for this time and to be able to sit in your backyard and have this conversation.
This has been a delight and a real pleasure for me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, wonderful to be finished and feel that sense of gratitude. So